Have you ever wondered what the biggest mistakes in NBA history are? Why did the Bulls break up their team after their 6th championship? Why did the Lakers trade Shaq away after winning 3 rings alongside Kobe Bryant? What made the Oklahoma City Thunder trade James Harden away when it seemed they were knocking on the door and ready to compete for multiple championships? Why was a guy with tiny hands drafted first in 2001? Some of the mistakes NBA franchises have made over the years will undoubtedly leave you scratching your head and asking yourself, what were they thinking? Kobe Bryant for Vlade Divac. When you think of Kobe Bryant, you think of the Los Angeles Lakers. Many people do not realize he was actually drafted by the Charlotte Hornets. Yes, the Charlotte Hornets. The Hornets picked Kobe Bryant with the 13th overall pick in the 1996 NBA draft. It seems crazy enough that 12 teams would have passed up on the mega talent that Kobe Bryant was. A short time after drafting Bryant, the Hornets traded him to the Lakers in exchange for center Vlade Divac. Divac was a strong starting center in the league for a number of years, but considering he got traded for an all-time great, he will always be compared to Bryant, and he will never come close to measuring up. Bryant made his first All-Star team just a year later and won his first championship over 4 years into the league. Kobe ended his career winning 5 championship rings, making an astounding 18 All-Star teams, winning 2 scoring titles and an MVP award. He finished his career with a scoring average of 25 points per game. Divac made an All-Star team in 2001 and averaged just under 12 points a game for his career. Although these numbers are solid for a center who played more than 15 seasons in the NBA, most players will compare in a very negative way when matched up against an all-time great like Kobe. Pistons select Darko. In 2002, the Detroit Pistons finished in second place in the Eastern Conference before being knocked out in the second round by the Boston Celtics. In 2003, the Pistons finished with the best record in the East before being eliminated by the New Jersey Nets in the Eastern Conference Finals. Going into the 2003 draft, the Pistons had high expectations, and after receiving the 2nd overall pick in the NBA draft via a trade with the Vancouver Grizzlies, the Pistons were in great shape to select an impact player to help them get to the championship. With Detroit lacking size, they decided to take 7-foot center Darko Milicic from Serbia. Darko ended up playing in Detroit for 3 seasons, where he averaged less than 2 points per game. Although the Pistons traded for Rasheed Wallace the following season and won a championship, that was their lone title due to their aging veterans. There were many players on the board Detroit could have selected rather than Darko that would have took the torch and helped the Pistons compete for titles for the next decade. Carmelo Anthony, Chris Bosh, and Dwayne Wade were selected with 3 picks after the Pistons took Milicic. All 3 players were immediately the best players on their team and caused the Pistons to have second thoughts right away. Those 3 players combined for 34 All-Star Game appearances, 5 championships, and 2 scoring titles. The Pistons were able to get an NBA championship the season after drafting Darko, but to select a player that not many scouts were very knowledgeable about, over 3 players that played college ball in the United States and were all over national television is pretty perplexing. Anthony and Wade will definitely be Hall of Famers, and Chris Bosh is a borderline Hall of Famer. Darko Milicic never made an All-Star team. Pacers trade Kawhi. Kawhi Leonard was selected with the 15th overall pick in the 2011 NBA draft, which is a travesty in itself. Players like Derek Williams and Jan Vesley were picked ahead of him. The Indiana Pacers finally selected Leonard midway through the first round, but in a move that still gives the organization nightmares, they traded him on draft day for point guard George Hill. With the Miami Heat about to control the NBA for several years, the Pacers became their toughest competition in the Eastern Conference. With the solid foursome of Paul George, David West, Roy Hibbert, and Danny Granger, Indiana was known for their defensive prowess, but were missing a point guard. Hill averaged about 13 points per game in his 5 seasons with the squad and was a solid defensive point guard. But imagine what the Pacers could have looked like if they had kept Leonard. Kawhi Leonard is still in his 20s, and he has won 2 championships, 2 NBA Finals MVP awards, and been an All-NBA first-team performer twice. Leonard would have been a perfect fit in Indiana, already having been named the NBA Defensive Player of the Year twice. With the starting 5 looking something like Lance Stephenson, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, David West, and Roy Hibbert, the Pacers would have most definitely grew into a perennial title contender. Instead, they gave the Miami Heat a few tough series before being eliminated. The Heat were known for their offensive firepower, and with the 5 players previously named combining for 10 All-NBA defensive teams, they would have caused LeBron's Miami squad a lot of problems come playoff time. Timberwolves pass on Curry twice. Going into the 2009 NBA draft, it was pretty obvious who the first overall pick was going to be. You can't blame the Clippers for selecting Blake Griffin. If any team in the league says they would not have taken Griffin with that pick, they are lying. Griffin is a 6-time All-Star and is only 30 years old. The Memphis Grizzlies selected Hasheem Thabeet with the second overall pick. Thabeet turned out to be a complete bust, barely averaging over 2 points per game during his career. James Harden was a great pick by the Thunder at number 3 overall. And even Tyreke Evans, who the Sacramento Kings chose with the 4th overall pick, has had a nice career. Although Curry could have obviously been selected somewhere in the top 4, it's what the Minnesota Timberwolves did next that leaves many NBA fans with their mouths wide open in shock. The Timberwolves clearly needed a point guard, and after making a trade with the Washington Wizards, they held the 5th and 6th picks in the draft. Not only did they pass on Curry once, they passed on him twice in a row. And better yet, they used those 2 picks to take 2 point guards, the same position that Steph Curry plays. The Wolves picked Ricky Rubio from Spain with the 5th pick, and Syracuse phenom Johnny Flynn with the 6th overall pick. The Warriors used their pick, 7th overall, to take the sharpshooter from Davidson, and the rest is history. Flynn played in the NBA for 4 seasons, averaging less than 10 points per game during his short career. Rubio has had a much better career, averaging just over 11 points and 7 assists for his career. When matched up to the 2-time NBA MVP in Curry, those numbers look pretty anemic. Curry has won 3 championships, won 2 NBA Finals MVP awards, won a scoring title, and made 6 All-Star teams. I'm sure Minnesota will think twice next time they decide to underestimate somebody who puts the ball in the hoop with record consistency. Bowie over Jordan. Going into the 1984 NBA draft, the Houston Rockets were expected to select the University of Houston's Hakeem Olajuwon with the number 1 overall pick. The Dream went on to win 2 championships, an MVP award, and make 12 All-Star teams, so this was clearly a good selection by the Rockets. The question of the draft was who the Portland Trail Blazers were going to take with the 2nd overall pick. The Blazers clearly needed a big man, and with Sam Bowie from Kentucky and Charles Barkley, Auburn, available, they had options. Most people around the league thought that after Olajuwon, Jordan was the most talented player available. Regardless of what position was needed, most organizations try to pick the most talented player available and worry about their positions later. The Trailblazers clearly were not like most organizations. They decided to take Bowie, and after Mike was picked 3rd by the Bulls and Chuck was picked 5th by the 76ers, this may go down as the biggest draft day blunder of all time, considering Michael Jordan is considered by many to be the best basketball player to ever live. Michael Jordan does not need much description. He won 6 NBA championships, 6 NBA Finals MVP awards, won 5 regular season MVP awards, and averaged over 30 points per game during his illustrious career. Charles Barkley is a first ballot Hall of Famer as well. He won an MVP award in 1993 and made 11 All-Star teams. Although Bowie made the All-NBA rookie team his first year in the league, injuries played a major key in his career and ended up averaging just under 11 points per game for his career. The Blazers made a similar mistake over 20 years later when they selected injury-prone Greg Oden with the 1st overall pick over Kevin Durant. Durant has already won 2 championships, 2 Finals MVP, a regular season MVP award, and made 10 All-Star teams. If the Blazers had taken Jordan and Durant, who knows how many championships the franchise would have won. Instead, they have not won a title in over 40 years. Clippers fall for Icandy. Back in 1998, the Los Angeles Clippers were fortunate enough to have the 1st overall pick in a loaded NBA draft. They decided to use their pick on Nigerian 7-foot center Michael Icandy, who played his college basketball at the University of Pacific. The Candyman lasted less than a decade in the NBA, never making an All-Star team. He only played 5 seasons for the Clippers before bouncing around the league and averaged just over 8 points per game during his career. The Clippers passed on players that turned out to be superstars, such as Paul Pierce, Dirk Nowitzki, and Vince Carter. These players combined for 2 NBA championships, 2 Finals MVPs, a regular season MVP, and 32 All-Star Game appearances. Even players like Antoine Jamison and Mike Bibby would have been much better selection for the Clippers. Jamison and Bibby played for about 3 decades between the two of them, combining for 2 All-Star appearances. This set the Clippers back for many years, causing them to be one of the laughingstocks of the league for many years. C's get big. In the summer of 1980, the Boston Celtics were coming off an Eastern Conference Finals loss and needed an upgrade. The Green felt like they were a big man away from getting to the NBA Finals and possibly winning. Due to a trade with the Detroit Pistons a year earlier, the Celtics were slated to pick 1st overall in the upcoming draft. The Celtics traded their 1st and 13th overall pick in the draft to the Golden State Warriors for 26-year-old center Robert Parrish and the 3rd pick in the draft. The Warriors used their picks to select Joe Barry Carroll and Ricky Brown, who combined to make 1 All-Star game. The Boston Celtics selected Hall of Famer Kevin McHale out of Minnesota with their draft pick, and alongside 2 more Hall of Famers in Larry Bird and the aforementioned Robert Parrish, the Celtics boasted possibly the best frontline in the history of the league, combining for 30 All-Star Game appearances. The threesome went on to win the title in 1981 and won 3 championships as teammates, while the Warriors fell into mediocrity for many years.